Balancing equations. Balancing chemical equations is based on the law of conservation of mass, the strong form of which says that the number of atoms of each element is unchanged in an ordinary process. Let's write the equation for the reaction. Hydrogen reacts with oxygen to form water. The equation for the reaction is H2. Remember that hydrogen is a diatomic element, plus O2, because oxygen is also a diatomic element, gives, the arrow, water, whose formula is H2O. So here is the skeleton reaction. Notice that the number of hydrogen atoms is the same in the reactants as it is in the products. But the number of oxygen atoms is not the same in the reactants and the products. How do we make the number of oxygen atoms the same? There are several things that might be done to make the reaction balanced. 1. We could change the formula of one or more of the compounds, like this. H2 plus O2 gives H2O2. But then the reaction would make hydrogen peroxide and would not be the water reaction. This is not allowed. You may not change the formulas of the compounds in the reaction in order to balance the equation. 2. We could add the missing atoms onto the reaction so things balance, as shown here. H2 plus O2 gives H2O plus O. But there is no evidence that oxygen atoms are produced in any significant amounts when hydrogen and oxygen gases react. This is also not allowed. You may not simply add the missing atoms to the other side of the equation in order to balance the equation. 3. We can adjust the number of each of the molecules until the number of atoms are balanced. This is what we do. We adjust the coefficients in the reaction, the numbers in front of the formulas, until the number of atoms of each element is the same on both sides of the reaction. So, visually, in words, and in an equation, here is how we balance the water reaction. So here's the equation. Here is the picture. We have a balance where the left pan represents the reactants and the right pan represents the products. The number of atoms of hydrogen and the number of atoms of oxygen are shown on each pan, and the pans do not balance. And here are the words. With one molecule of each substance, the equation is not balanced. In order to balance the number of oxygen atoms, we need to have a 2 for the coefficient in front of the water molecule. This makes 4 hydrogen atoms and 2 oxygen atoms in the products. But this makes the hydrogen no longer balanced. Now we need to balance the hydrogen atoms by placing a coefficient of 2 in front of the hydrogen in the reactants. This makes 4 hydrogen atoms in the reactants, as well as in the products, and 2 oxygen atoms in the reactants, as well as the products. So here's the statement. We need 2 hydrogen molecules to balance the hydrogen atoms, and the reaction is balanced. You should note that it is assumed that the coefficient of oxygen is 1.